It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, this sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, of measuring one's soul by the tape of a world that looks on by amused contempt and pity. So, yeah, exactly. This is a lot to unpack. So, the first question that I just want to ask us today is: when do people first learn to see themselves through someone else's gaze?
I feel like we started to talk about this a little bit in one of our previous episodes that like from a very young age, we start to determine
Yeah,
like what the world thinks about us.
yeah.
And I think the specific language I used was like, when do our babies stop being babies to this world? And I think
Mm,
when the babies stop being babies to the world, it's also when the babies start to view themselves through how the world views them. And I think
yes.
about like, look it up on YouTube, y'all, the doll test. I think about that doll test because I'm like, when they present the black doll, the white doll, and they're asking
Mm,
children across all lines of race and ethnicity, like,
yeah.
which one is the good doll?
Yeah.
Which one is the bad doll? Which one
Yes.
is the ugly doll? Which one
Yes.
is the
Yes.
evil doll? And like over and over again, you're seeing children across all lines of race saying the bad doll is the black doll,
Yeah.
saying the ugly doll is the black doll. And so that I think tells us that from a very young age, we start to internalize ideas about
Yeah.
who we are as Black people
Yeah.
from a variety of different places.
Yeah. It
When we're
is a
thinking about it in schools and we're thinking about our students and pushing them to be like ask themselves those questions, those meta
mhm,
questions about like, why do you think this person just interacted with you this way?
mm,
Right? Without them internalizing it as this being the truth. But I think this is why this word gaze is so important because
yeah.
it is predicated on the fact that this is not about the truth.
Yes.
This is about the perception. And
Yes.
it's so
Yes.
interesting because I just had this conversation the other day with someone about how perception is reality. And I was like, I really
Mhm,
hate that term. And I feel like I've
mhm.
said this before in one of our
Yeah.
episodes. I really hate that perception is reality because of the ways in which objectivity is not real. And
Yeah.
so if objectivity is not real, it's not possible to be objective, then that means people's subjective perceptions are what
Mhm,
they are operating
mhm,
on.
mhm.
And your subjective perception might be absolutely wrong.
Yeah. Yes.
and
Yes.
and you are
Yes.
making all these decisions rooted in that. You
Yeah.
might have positions of power making decisions rooted in your assumptions,
Yeah.
right? And I think
Yep.
that is a really scary thing to kind of be confronted with.
Yeah. I
When we're
do want
thinking
to take a moment to kind of talk about, this idea that we are also conscious in other ways outside of, our proximity to whiteness as a
Mhm.
Black person. And so, like, I think about my religious upbringing. I grew up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I think because of that particular upbringing, I did not fully understand the ways in which racial politics even worked because it just wasn't a thing that you talk about in that particular religion. It was more so geared towards, what does the Bible teach? What does the Bible say? And all of it, I think, was helpful in my forming of, my core personality. But then I think about, this idea that, man, I actually missed a lot. I missed a lot growing up thinking that this way of believing in this religious, organization was the only way to think about the world. And then when I left the organization and started to do more reading, more research, I was in college and, took some classes. I'm like, oh, actually, this is actually doesn't even matter right now what I think about God because people are already judging me because I'm Black,
Mhm.
and I think I had some awareness around it, but I think when I left that religion and I was able to like think a little bit more clearly about, the way I exist in the world, it became much more clear to me that, oh, okay, my Blackness is impacting opportunities that, people do or don't put in front of you. So,
Yeah, and I think for me, which something you're naming is around this environment of like how religious environments kind of shape what we think is acceptable. And I think about like my identity as like a Black queer woman and like the ways in which like that was never a conversation I could ever have, especially
mm,
being in like a Caribbean household and like if anyone knows anything about Jamaica, there's a lot of homophobic tendencies in like
mm,
music, culture, etc. And so for me, it was like, this is not even a part of my identity we can even talk about. But like, I also
mm,
need to be
mm,
aware of the ways in which I was finding attraction towards like women that like I thought were attractive, et cetera. And and me downplaying and silencing those parts of myself because I was just like, how would I like experience shame, etc., all of those things with people
Yeah.
that I cared about and valued
Yeah.
for being myself.